Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Fantasy Fiends podcast. Oh my, that wasn't even proper English. Let me try it again. Hello, and hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. Those who are watching, I apologize for this episode because Stevie, we promised that we would have our 200 subscriber episode with Stevie and his face painted. Unfortunately, Stevie chose Venom, which is probably the worst character to paint your face in for a podcast. No appearance.
It looks like I'm trying to make a statement or something.
Yes, it definitely does.
This is my mom's lipstick, and it's so weird. Like, look at my soda can. It's like got lipstick all over it. I mean, I hate this. I don't see how women do this. I mean, it's insane. But I will say I was actually pretty good at applying it, being a theater guy. And I was able to do my eyes really well, too. Let me get something real quick.
So here on the Fantasy Fiends podcast, Stevie has already taken our first episode off to a rocky start.
How about a socky start? These are my girlfriend bought these for me, and because Venom is my favorite. Venom and Iron Man and Spider-Man. So real quick, a couple of quick announcements. Oh, I'm sorry. Since I messed up the intro, I forgot to introduce our honored guest today, which is Joyce. Joyce Reynolds-Ward. I couldn't figure out if it was Ward Reynolds or what. Joyce Reynolds-Ward, and that's Reynolds, not Reynolds, like Andy was saying earlier. So embarrassed of you, Andy. Come on. Obviously, it's Reynolds. And for this podcast, she will be referred to as Horse Lady, because if you can see in the background, look at all those freaking awards. She knows her way around a horse.
Well, and you can't even see the blue ribbons. So there are blue ribbons there, and the funny noise in the background is apparently my dearly beloved spouse has decided to print something out.
What are the differences in the color?
Blue ribbon is first place. Red ribbons are second place. Let's see. Yellow's third, white is fourth, pink is fifth, and green is sixth.
Okay, and what did you do to get those?
Well, we entered a lot of show classes. Actually, I don't have it with me, but we also earned a belt buckle this summer.
Sweet.
And it was what is called a ranch horse competition, which was a bunch of classes that are focused on horses that do like ranch type work, but it's a particular way of moving in a Western saddle and bridle, and doing trail classes. And basically my horse was the one that took a look at two white poles and did not freak out.
That's awesome. You know, I have a lot of respect for people that are good with horses because I actually spoke to a jouster because in Texas, we have a place that I go to that has actual real jousting, and they let me go and watch the training. They treat those horses better than some parents treat their own kids. They just know their way around these horses, right? And it's a lot. Like, it looks easy when people are riding them, but I was terrified walking up to these 6-foot creatures that could just kill me with one buck. And these guys, they just knew what to do. And it's like the horse and the person bond. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Your horse recognizes you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Although my horse kind of looks at me at times when I'm going out the field, gives me the stink eye, and flips me the horsey equivalent of the middle finger if she's in the mood to do so.
She wants an extra carrot, I presume.
Oh yeah, she gets carrots and stuff, but she's 18 years old and opinionated. 18 years old in horse years is about mid-50s, solid middle age.
Geez, they live a long time.
Well, yeah, it's modern horses get good care, and as long as they don't have a metabolic syndrome or other health problems, they can be ridden into their mid-20s, even up to their 30s.
That's awesome. One day I'd like to own land in Texas and actually have a couple horses that I know how to ride and take care of. Real quick, we're going to be going over Joyce's novel called Clone Stronghold. That is what we're going to be reading out of today, which I'm excited about. And also, I want to talk more about horses, but that is not the topic of today. Real quick, a few announcements. This episode is sponsored by two people that Andy's just now learning about. The first one is Jonathan Yanez. He just came out with a book called Get It Done, Hard-Hitting Motivation for Authors. It is freaking excellent. A lot of people ask me, where do I get the motivation to write a book? Let alone, I just finished my sixth or seventh novel yesterday. I didn't tell Andy. I was waiting till just now to tell him.
Ooh-wee.
Always feels good. So we're going to be celebrating this weekend. But when people ask me this question, I never really know what to say. Well, this book tells it all. It's for new authors and old authors alike. And real quick, I want to read this. In this book, you'll learn motivation and practical tips to flex your word count muscle, make your writing vision your priority, fail better, which I think is excellent, defeat writer's block, plan your first week to taking control of your author life, plus all the affirmations you won't give yourself. And affirmations for a law of attraction guy like me are priceless. Like, I always love writing down good affirmations. So go and check that book out. It's only $4.99, which is a steal. 5-star rating, and that again is by Jonathan Yanez. Get It Done. I'll have a link in the description. The next announcement is, sadly, I have to take the podcast to a negative point. Andy knows this. Brandon Barr is in the final stages of leukemia. I would not be here if it wasn't for two people, Andy Peliquin and Brandon Barr. Both of them helped me so much. Brandon Barr helped me with my cover and told me, hey, you need to get something different. He was he would send me these emails, like, were just massive texts, right? He spent so much time helping me, and it just breaks my freaking heart to know that he will not be with us soon. And I know Andy's upset about it. We're part of a group. So he's leaving behind a wife and 3 young boys, and it just tears my heart out of my chest. He has a GoFundMe. That link will be in the description. If you feel like helping out an author, a fellow Christian, and just an awesome, amazing man and an awesome, amazing husband, please do it. Do it for his family. So that is it. That's Brandon Barr, Barr. And also, if you want to support him, go check out his books as well. And I'll also have the link in the description. So just wanted to make those 2 quick announcements. And now back to our regular scheduled podcast episode. Andy, do you want to talk about our week's our topic for today?
Our topic for the week. Yeah, so this is actually a really interesting topic suggested by Joyce that I found interesting. It was not knowing what you are can hurt you. So that's sort of based on the principle that deep down inside we each sort of have our purpose. You know, however long it takes us to find it, we have it. So some people, you know, their purpose is to be a creator. Some people have a purpose to be a leader or an innovator. Deep down, we all have something. But not knowing that, people who, you know, can go their whole lives without ever sort of digging deep and finding out about that, it can ultimately harm them. And so, Joyce, what would you like? You mentioned the character from your book, Rini. Right.
Rini is this is an urban fantasy world, obviously, contemporary urban fantasy. And Rini has problems with a stalker ex-husband, and she doesn't know why Carl won't let go of her. But she also has some things she doesn't remember about her past. And what ends up coming out with Rini as it all comes out is that she had her memory suppressed, but she didn't, you know, she thinks she's just a normal human being. No, she's not.
Was it through magic?
What's that?
Was it through magic that her memory got suppressed?
It was through, a kind of magic and an evil, I kind of have a cult, I apologize in advance to any Pentecostal people. But it's a hardcore Pentecostal cult that is suppressing the tendencies of people who are electric elementals.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And one of the things that is going on is that but there's a larger agenda behind it, including the control of the supernatural council. But Rini is threatening to these people. And so they bury her knowledge of that part of her heritage at a very young age.
Quick question. Why is the cult against the electric elementals? I'm guessing there's other elementals, or is it just the electricity element?
There's electric elementals, there's wind elementals, there's water elementals, there's nature elementals. Part of it is because one of the characters is a different type of supernatural being, and he's making a power play. And so it's basically a hidden agenda type of situation.
Okay. And the main character's name is what again?
The main character's name is Irene Marie Dutta.
Rini. And so I'm guessing she's an electric elemental?
She's half electric elemental, half demon.
Okay. And so are you the one who proposed this theme today?
Yeah, yeah.
And what was your motivation for that?
Well, that's kind of the driving force behind this particular book. And but that's also, in a lot of ways, none of us really know what we're about, or we don't really know who we really are. And it can end up hurting you if you don't check it out.
This actually brings me up to one of my favorite themes, which is humans going primal when tested. Like if you're putting on, I'm talking about oh my Lord of the Flies. I've read that book 4 times because I transferred schools a lot, and each English teacher had us reread it. And we, like when you said we don't really know who we are. Well, this book really dives into that when these Catholic boys, I think they were Catholic. Either way, they crash on this island and they just go berserk, violent, and all these tendencies deep down within us come out. But I'm guessing we're talking more of a, maybe more modern, are we, how do we define ourselves gender-wise and sexually? Is that what we're going at today?
We could. I was in Rini's case, and I mean, maybe some people would look at the book and say that the not knowing who she is with regard to being a supernatural being is kind of a metaphor. I certainly wasn't meaning it that way, but that was where, but there's also a lot of different things. For example, I'm older, obviously. I bounced around between a lot of careers before I finally found teaching. And I actively resisted going into teaching.
You're like the student then, just actively resisting going to class.
Yeah,
Are you an English teacher?
I'm retired from teaching. I do substitute teaching, but
what were you?
I was a middle school special education teacher.
Oh, I bet that was really rewarding, though.
It was, but it also had a lot of very difficult challenges, especially in today's climate where you have a lot of high stakes assessment and people who don't understand high stakes testing.
I actually don't even know what that is.
Oh, that's where you have the yearly tests, and teachers are judged by the scores that their students get on those tests. And special ed teachers, you can understand, their students are not necessarily going to do really well on reading and math tests.
Yes. My girlfriend and I were talking about this. Her father is a biology teacher, and apparently this testing makes him have to is really annoying and very inefficient when it comes to trying to actually teach the students. She would explain it better than I.
You lose a month a year you lose a month of instructional time to your testing.
Wow, that's crazy. Did any of the special eds influence your writing? Any of those circumstances?
Actually, Clone Stronghold is probably the one book I've written of my various books that draws on my special education experience, because Renee is a special education teacher and she gets recruited to go out in the woods, and she's running away from the stalker and meets at a music festival, meets this guy who gets her a job. It's kind of, well, my short tagline for this is Frankenstein's monster meets Jane Eyre in the Blue Mountains.
Nice.
Sasquatch. And so she goes out to the woods to teach these kids who are cryptid constructs, and immediately starts figuring out that, wait a minute, these kids are older than their physical age would appear to be, and they're not learning really well. And how am I going to fix that? And so, I mean, I've brought my teaching up in a few short stories, but it's something I've still been kind of fiddling with. One of my early writing influences was Zena Henderson with the People books, where the pilgrimage, where teachers either come from this group of aliens that are hiding, or that crash landed on planet Earth in the 19th century, or else so either teachers stumble across various scattered descendants of these aliens, or they're these aliens that are going out and working with people. It's kind of a cool, it's old, and I don't know how well known it is now, but she was pretty popular in the 60s and 70s.
Interesting.
So I guess the theme, I'm trying to relate it to myself. So I'm guessing Rainey, am I saying that right? Rainey or Renee? Renee, excuse me. Renee isn't accepting that she's an electric elemental. Does she not want to be it? Is she in this cult?
No, she doesn't even know that she is one. And it's not until she goes. And it's not until she goes out to the stronghold and starts teaching these kids that she starts finding this out about herself.
Does she blow up one of the kids on accident?
No, it's more along the lines that her evil uncle is trying to suppress her and manages to contact her. And things go south from there. Things blow up. But she runs it. She also, she discovers that there's a couple of brownies who are, the Fae characters, brownies, that are living there. And then she discovers there's all these little supernatural beings that are living around the clone stronghold for their own protection.
So when with this topic, is there any way you could relate it to yourself? I mean, I know I'm just kind of throwing that at you right now. I'm trying. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, for me, I want to say something that I didn't realize about myself is growing up Catholic and going through these religious schools. I didn't realize how spiritual I was until I want to say I was like 23, 24, when somebody came up to me at the gym and he said, "Hey, I heard you're writing a novel." And because I worked at the gym at this time while I was going through college. And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Have you asked God to make it successful?" And I was like, "I'm not going to ask God for that. You don't ask God for things." And he's like, "Yeah, read these." And he gave me these verses. And he's like, "You can actually ask God for things. Just be grateful for what you have and ask for, what you want in life, because he's on your side." And something about when he said he's on your side, I felt like it was like my mom or dad on the sidelines while I was playing soccer or something. And then at that point, I really realized, hey, I'm more spiritual than I thought I was. And it only took years to do it. And I just wished someone during this time while I was going to these religious schools had taught me that way, that I've always been scared of God rather than thinking he was a team player on my side, you know, wanting to push me up. So I know I don't want to take this podcast to religion, but I was trying to think, what about myself did I not know? So that I think that would be it. I knew I was religious, but I didn't know how spiritual I really was. And you know, another thing, before I'll pass this on, maybe someone else has another example. I didn't realize how much I needed a creative outlet. I had a spiritual outlet. I had a physical outlet, which was the gym, but I'd always wanted to draw. And so when I found out I can't draw, I was always stuck with these ideas. And so having this creative outlet, if I go 2 or 3 days now without writing or editing, I actually get very anxious. I have all these ideas spilling into my head. I feel like I'm not being productive. So writing has not only become my passion, it's become a habit and part of me. And I never realized, again, how much I needed this creative outlet. And not looking back when I was writing for papers and stuff in English class, how good it felt to do that. I hope I'm on the topic. I'm just trying to, you know, think of, and I'm not pulling this out of my butt. These are real things that I found out about myself because I am a meditator. So I think that helps a lot. Andy, is there anything about yourself? Like, did you like wake up one day and realize you were 6'5"?
Pretty much. No. You know, I think I always knew deep down that I was gonna do something creative. I just didn't know what, you know? Like my family is very, very creative. So
Go on. What does that mean?
Well, my dad's a musician. My sisters and brothers are all artists. Like I come from a super creative family. And so the fact that I could never draw or do anything artistic was always sort of a problem for me because I knew that I had this innate creative energy that I needed to let out somehow. And so when I discovered the outlet of writing, I had an elementary school teacher who was super passionate. He sort of infected me with that passion. And then around the ages of 15, 16, 17, 18, it was sort of my outlet, and I discovered that I enjoyed it and that I was good at it. And that right there sort of led me to like one step closer to finding the person who I feel I really am and what I am as a storyteller. You know, this is the art that I was born or destined or whatever to create. And so that discovery in many ways has really put me at peace with so much in my life, because no matter what no matter what areas I'm weak in or where I'm struggling or all of that, at least I have this sense of peace that I know what I am. And so I think that's, instead of saying, you know, not knowing what you are can hurt you, it's more like once you find that genuine human being that you are, you'll have this innate sense of peace that no matter how hard things get, it's what you're supposed to do.
Well, and also to being a parent of an adult, an adult who has been kind of struggling to find who he is. That's one aspect of it. But what I have found is that with every decade of life, I seem to end up reinventing myself. You would think by now that I would have it pretty well settled, but well, the writing thing. I wanted to write when I was, for years. I wrote in high school. I wrote when I was in elementary. The first thing I wrote, I remember, was something about Mighty Mouse on yellow paper in a typewriter years ago.
I love Mighty Mouse.
But, you know, I kept writing and then not writing, writing and then not writing. And then in the about 2007, a friend of mine won the Hugo Award for his short stories. And I went, wait a minute. I've been writing as long, if not longer, than he has. If he could do it, why can't I? Well, as I find out, I write quirky. No, you know, New York doesn't really find my work very interesting.
You write quirky?
Quirky. Well, I write a lot of strong a lot of my characters, if you look at my books, will be all predominantly women. Now, I'm a girl. I like writing about other women and strong, powerful women in positions of power. And it's just the way the stories evolve. And up until recently, there's not been a big market for that. So I ended up doing the self-publishing route on that one. And self-publishing is a journey of discovery. And it's a discovery every day. I'm discovering new things about myself. How flexible am I about technology? How flexible am I about marketing? How far am I willing to go? And what am I willing to do? And that makes it kind of interesting. Well, I'm still growing and developing. On the artistic front, the other weird thing that happened is the last couple of years, I was selling books at a Christmas bazaar. I also make jewelry. I was next to the Quilt Guild ladies. I had lots of fun with the Quilt Guild ladies. They watched me embroider. They said, come to our meetings, come to our sew days. I discovered that I like to make quilts.
Nice.
There's one. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't enjoy that. I'm not a very patient person.
Well, that was the thing. I didn't think I would either, but I'm working on my third quilt, or my third major quilt. I've made some mini quilts, and now it's like I'm into this whole notion of art quilt, art hangings. Ooh, that could be fun.
Do you ever do some on your books?
Just getting to that point now. In fact, I just sent off a short story that is a science fiction story with quilting in it.
Nice. How did you make that work? How did you put quilting into science fiction?
Very thoughtfully. And what it ended up doing was I ended up stealing from my NetWalk sequence world, only far future, where they go into virtual reality or digital reality, and they end up creating this 10-meter quilt or 10, quilt sandwich, and use an alien invader as the filling, because they have to have a way to isolate it and keep it safe. So they don't get hurt and get it back to where people can study it. Actually, what it is it's robotic sentient interfaces that is a rogue planetary defense system, and they have to find some way to contain it.
And you have quilts in it.
Yeah, and so they used quilting.
So you are a quirky writer.
Yes.
You know what? That we will get along, because I would say perhaps maybe I am also a quirky writer. I've been told people can read my stuff and they find my personality in it. Mm-hmm. I know people say it takes a while to find your writing style. I actually think I found mine pretty early. I do see it change with the book I'm reading. Like I just finished The Sword of Shanra by Terry Brooks. Mm-hmm. And I found my writing has become more poetic, more pretty, I would say, more pretty and proper. And but when I start reading Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames, which is more silly, less formal, my writing gets not sloppy, not in the negative way, but more relaxed.
Right.
But my style, I can always tell my writing from other people's, Other people's? Is that proper?
Yeah, other people's writing. So people apostrophe us.
Yeah. So Andy, again, what exactly is the theme? Again, it is what we found about ourselves that we didn't know. Now, can this go religiously, sexually, gender-wise, all the taboo topics that we could bring up on the podcast?
I think so. Like no matter what you are, you've got to be that genuine self, and that's the only way to sort of come to terms with who you are. And once you find that genuine self, no matter what it is, I wouldn't say you've got it made, but you're far ahead of the curve. People who have no idea what they are, what they want in life, what they're, what they want to do, all of that. The more you discover your true self, the more of a complete person you become, I think.
Well, real quick, over the past few months, I've had, I will say, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate circumstances to meet people who could really give a crap less what they are as a person. They don't give it a second thought. What I call these people is a low vibration person, a person who doesn't give much value to society or to themselves. All they think about are greedy things. You know, when do I get my next fix of drugs? Will I have enough money to go to McDonald's today? You know, they give no, they don't do not enhance themselves academically. These people, I wonder, is it possible to be a person who never finds out about anything new about themselves because they're just riding the waves of the day?
There are people I know people in their 60s who are like that, and they don't have a driving passion, they don't have a driving hobby. They just, I don't know whether it's a non-self-examined life or
Okay, I like that.
or what, but or if they're just afraid. I wonder sometimes if fear is what drives that notion, because it is easier to just float.
That is what, you know what, you totally. So I listen to so many self-help, self-development books, law of attraction, and actually fear is a big reason why we do not set goals, which is exactly what I think you just said. And I wrote it down. Fear is an acronym that he used. Do you know who Zig Ziglar is?
Of course.
Oh man, he's really good. He does try and stuff religion down people's throats, but that's okay. He was an older speaker, and it doesn't bother me because I am religious. But I want to read this. So fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. Oh, it's so good.
That's
so
a good one.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the people that you're talking about are forget everything and run, which is they don't evaluate their lives. They don't want to set goals because they're afraid they won't match up to it. Maybe. What a way to live, you know. And the sad thing is, I feel like you can't even help these people because they won't listen.
Well, they're so locked into their frightened little worlds that they don't want to expand and reach beyond. That's been, at least that has been my experience with that.
And honestly, I know this is sad of myself, but I can't be friends with those people. I can be acquaintances. I can be kind, generous, all of that stuff. Because I'm just like that in the first place. And one second. Hold on, guys. Andy, we take over real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I was going to say that those types of people, I think, are often what you would call psychic vampires.
Yeah.
That is because they often will try to latch on to someone who is driven or has a goal or has some place to go with their life. And then they try to suck all your energy.
I feel like some relationships are like that as well.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Whether friends, family, romantic relationships, there will always be people who are trying to do that, because there are people, like you say, low vibration people, low energy people, low drive people, and they're okay with that. And the truth is that for people to be extraordinary, there have to be average people. Yeah. So people who are average definitely have a place in society and life, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I would say that I feel like that's not my place. My place is not to be one of those people. So when I see people like that, I have to be very guarded, that they don't drain me, or that they don't, consume my energy or my drive. I've got to be very guarded with my time and my focus.
Oh, absolutely. Been there, done that. Could write the book about it.
Yeah.
I think this is something I think we all can agree on, and that is, our characters are constantly finding new things about themselves. They're developing throughout the series. I know mine do. There's always something new in each book that they find, or find a new way to conquer a flaw, or a way to go around it. And then also cool things, like yours, Joyce. They find out they're an electric elemental, or they find out they're a a were centaur. You know, they turn into a centaur full moon. I don't know.
Well, it's like in my fantasy series, the Goddess's Honor series. One of the things that is happening is that the seven crowned gods are fighting among themselves, and they drag it into politics. And then to some extent, or to human politics and human worlds, and to some extent, the what you don't know about yourself could kill you, could carry over to that series, because one of my main characters in that series is grappling with the concept that the gods want her to do something. They want her, and they've laid out a path in front of her, and she's got to fight. She's kicking and screaming and fighting the whole way, but she wasn't happy when she ended up as leader of the country Medvara. And when things blew up in her face, she just basically handed it over to her cousin, who also was like, "Me, I'm just a healer. I'm nobody special. What? I'm the leader now?"
Is this medieval fantasy, or is this more a modern approach?
This is non-European high fantasy.
Nice. And what year is this?
It's a totally different world. So,
okay.
But they have it's kind of loosely, I guess you would say it's loosely based on, there's no guns, but they have steamships. So it's kind of 18th century, and an alternate look at 18th century Pacific Northwest development. I'm working on a Weird West series now that will be a bit more explicit than that.
Weird West, is that a genre?
Yes, that is a genre. That's or alternate. In my case, it's more alternate history. But Weird West is when you take urban fantasy and dump it into the West.
I think I've actually heard of Weird West. That's why I asked the question. It sounded pretty. Actually, I think it's no offense, but is it like a huge genre right now, or is it more?
It's kind of a sleeper. It kind of emerged a little bit in the late 90s in what was called cowpunk. Joe Lansdale wrote a few things in that. Emma Bull had a book called Tombstone that was kind of an alternate Tombstone. And then there's been it's always kind of been out there. The one that's kind of the biggest one that's most recent is David Boop released an anthology called Straight Outta Tombstone, which is more toward the horror side of things. And he got some big name writers to come up with stuff for that.
Well, I am ready to get into the reading if you guys are.
Do it.
Okay.
Actually, I want to mention that my favorite cover of yours is Dragons, Droids, and Doom.
That one is a compilation of published short stories from Fantasy Scroll magazine.
I really like that cover. I think it's cool. Okay, so we are reading let's see, Clone Stronghold. We're reading chapter 1 called The Hangout. So Joyce, you're the director of this. Who do you want to play a part? Do you want to narrate? It's all up to you.
I'll narrate, but a little background. This is a music festival setting.
Sure.
And it is kind of based on an actual one, but not quite.
Okay.
So, if you wanted to do the voices, I could do the rest of it.
Okay.
Let's do the voices.
Who are the characters in it?
Okay, we have Trina and Rocky, who are a couple who are friends of Rini. And then we have Rini. And then towards the end of the section, we get into, let's see, how far do we go? I think we end up meeting Sprug, who is the connection to the clone stronghold, and gets Rini the job.
Okay, I can play Trina. Andy, do you want to play Rocky?
Let's do it. What kind of character is Rocky?
Rocky is a nice, supportive guy.
All right, I can do that.
And Trina, and then Rini is in there too.
Yeah, Rini is in. I could do Rini in the narration.
Okay, great. And then you didn't say Scrooge. You said Scroog.
Stroog.
Stroog, is he like a bad guy?
No, he's the good guy. He's the one that sets. He's kind of the one that sets Rini up to go to Clone's stronghold.
Okay, and I could play him.
Okay, so I can do Rini in narration, and you can do
Trina and Scroog. Stroog.
Yeah.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Chapter 1, The Hangout. Gonna be a nice weekend for the Mudhole show.
Trina said from the front passenger seat, half turning her head so that I saw her in profile.
Don't you think so, Rocky?
Probably.
Rocky said absently, focusing on the 2-lane country road winding its way through grassy farmlands and occasional oak patches.
Might get a little coastal fog in the morning, though. The hangout's close enough to the coast range for that. You did bring warm cover-ups, right, Rini?
You're never going to let me forget that raft trip, are you? I bit back the sharp edge that threatened to creep into my voice. Rocky hadn't known me before Carl, king of glamping. I know the coastal climate. Trina and I used to camp at Cape Lookout all the time. I just didn't know about desert climate then. Before Carl. Before husbands. I studiously stared at the patch of big leaf maple trees that sheltered a farmhouse as tension tightened my gut. It's going to be all right, I told myself. You're entitled to a life after Carl. Trina slapped Rocky's thigh.
That spare tent and sleeping bag we brought for Rini were originally hers, goofball. Just because Carl didn't camp doesn't mean that Rini hasn't.
Rocky laughed.
Being chivalrous meant I froze my butt. Just making sure. Sorry, Rini.
He slowed the car.
Crud. Protesters. Better get down, Rini.
That tense sensation in my gut cinched down tighter. Another worry. The Mudhole band catered to halflings and supernaturals as much as they did full humans. It made for a fun show, but not everyone was tolerant of tolerance. Can you see who it is? I asked Trina. She knew what I meant.
Yeah.
She leaned forward as Rocky slowed even more, following the line of cars turning onto the gravel drive leading to the hangout.
Might be all right. Looks like it might be just the usual land use protesters.
Now, those were protesters I could handle. The hangout wasn't particularly popular with 2 of their conservative farm neighbors. As a result, the number of the shows, like the Mudhole 3-day festival, were limited. Whew. I settled back in my seat. Still, slender strands of tension threaded through my gut. I wasn't going to dismiss that worry until we were completely inside the venue. Something's wrong. I didn't know what it was. Yet.
Don't get too comfortable.
Trina cautioned as we drew closer.
There's more than the usual protesters. Oh, crud.
Right then, I almost threw up. What?
Anti-supernaturals.
She peered closer.
And they're not all white. Shit. Rini, get down. Religious, and I think I see your uncle.
Shit! I lay flat on my side in the back seat, pulling the just-in-case blanket over me. Anyone beside Yanez? I asked once I was certain I was covered. Dread cinched tighter on me. This weekend was supposed to be fun, not a family intervention.
Sheriff's keeping them back,
Trina said.
But yeah, Pastor Ananda's there.
My parents? I choked back the sick, bitter taste in my mouth.
No. Wait. Your father.
Great. My fists clenched tight as the car inched ahead. I heard the shouts as we drove by. Not specific words, but the smooth, silky tone of Pastor Ananda's voice almost made me retch. At least they couldn't see me into the back seat. But I lay still and kept the blanket over me as the car inched ahead, voices fading and gravel crackling under the tires.
We're out of their sights now.
Trina said.
It's safe.
Good. I heaved a relieved sigh and tossed off the blanket, sitting up and taking a swig off the blue and silver metal mud-hole water bottle that had come with the tickets. Safe now. But something still lingered, my body unwilling to believe I was completely free of worry after all. No safe place for Reenie, not good enough, a part of me wailed. Stop it, I told myself firmly, like I would say to one of my former students locked in an emotional loop. Think about the show ahead and the fun. 3 whole nights of mudhole mania. It was going to be a welcome break from the mess of the past few years. Trina must have sensed my tension. She undid her seatbelt and turned to face me.
I'm so glad you could finally make it to the Mudhole show. You'll love the hangout. Their best performances are here.
That would support the argument that Charlie's a woods elemental. I waved my hand at the trees around us.
No, she's not.
Trina bristled, thumping the back of her seat. She
doesn't act like one.
I bit back a grin. Easy to get Trina going on this subject. I don't know, I said. Some of those notes she hits they're pushing the limits of the human voice. Not to speak of the sounds she could coax out of her violin.
She's too nice. She can't be a woods elemental.
Elementals can be good and bad, I said firmly. Well, not every elemental or supernatural was human-friendly, as I learned over the years. I wouldn't class Charlie as one of the nasties. If you listen close to Charlie's violin solos, you'll hear that she's not just an elemental. She's one of the kindly ones. Most woods elementals are that way.
Kind of funny to hear you defending elementals after what your folks and Carl put you through.
Trina grumbled. I won't turn into my parents. And if Carl's an elemental... My voice trailed off. What if my stalker ex-husband was an elemental? What kind would he be? No matter, human or elemental, he was still a jerk. All the same, if there ever were someone who could be a hidden and anti-human red elemental, it would be him. He'd denied any supernatural origin, and I'd never had the courage to seek out the practitioners who could confirm my suspicions. Based on the BS I'd learned in Pastor Hernandez's church as a kid, though, I suspected that if Carl was an elemental, he would have to be one of the worst sorts. I'd just as soon not know that. Trina frowned. Then she perked up again.
If we can get into the upper parking soon enough to pitch our tents on the edge of the lot, we won't even have to go to the main meadow to hear the music. You can listen and camp if you don't want to be part of the crowd, or if you're worried about running into Carl.
Why would I worry about running into Carl? This isn't his favorite music. I stuck my head out the window to look ahead in hopes I'd finally spot the entry gate. No such luck. An unending line of cars extended ahead of us until the road rounded a corner. I sank back in my seat. Hopefully this music festival was everything Trina and Rocky said it was. I needed a break. An even better break would be if I could join Trina and Rocky on their 3-week vacation following the band's late summer tour. But between the divorce, Carl's constant stalking, despite restraining orders, and my lack of a job with school starting up in 2 weeks, I couldn't afford to follow the Mudhole tour. The only reason I was here now was Trina's giving me a supposed extra ticket. I suspected she'd bought it for me. We suddenly lurched ahead all of 100 feet. A green-shirted woman with crew printed on it above the Mudhole logo held her hand up to stop us. She didn't hide the tendril of vines woven around her head that marked her as a woods elemental.
We're almost to the gate staging,
Trina said.
So you're not worried about Carl?
I shrugged. His Royal Highness, Carl the King of Clean, isn't going to be here. It's outdoors. It's camping. There's heat, bright sun and dust. He's not a jam band fan either. I think I can count on him not being here. I hoped. Despite my fervent denials, there was the tiniest tendril of doubt coiled within me. Carl's behavior had been surprisingly unpredictable since our divorce. Whenever I saw him, he acted more and more like what the scare tales from church described as a blood elemental.
You said that about the last Stompers show,
Trina said. I hated when she was right. I'm thinking that the combination of outdoors plus the whole camping thing will keep him away.
Well, if you see him and we aren't with you, don't hesitate to call security.
The woman waved us on. We inched ahead to a fork in the dusty road. A short, thick-bearded man with gray strewn through his long hair and beard flagged us to yet another stop. His original crew shirt was magenta, not dangerous blood red, and rainbow suspenders held up his dusty, ragged knee-length cutoffs. A bright, psychedelically painted water truck chugged up the hill, spraying water. The truck jockeyed back and forth to saturate the intersection, turned around, and then headed down the other road. Then the thick-bearded man ambled over to the car.
Overnight or day?
He asked. A strong, musky aroma wafted from him as he leaned into the open window and looked around the car.
Any alcohol or other contraband?
His eyes met mine, and I flushed, warmth flooding through me in a way it hadn't since Carl came into my life. Silly Reenie, I chided myself. He's just doing his job. The last thing you need is another involvement.
Overnight, tent campers?
Rocky fanned out the gorgeously embossed 3x7 tickets for the three of us.
No booze or any other contraband.
He surveyed the interior one more time. I folded the blanket so he could see we weren't hiding anything.
Looks good. Remember, no fireworks or outside alcohol. Smoking or vaping pot and or tobacco allowed in designated areas or your tents. You'll hang a right turn and folks will direct you from there. Bracelets at the front gate. Gather on.
His eyes met mine, and once again I felt the glow of an enormous blush welling up. That's you.
A special wish for healing for you, lady.
I almost thought I heard him say. I raised my brows at him, and he smiled. Elemental? No, he didn't have the feel about him that I associated with elementals. But he spoke inside my head, just like Carl did. What did it make this guy? An elemental after all? Most elementals didn't have power to speak without words, at least the non-reds, and this guy didn't have the feel of a red. He lacked that ambiguous frisson of danger that Carl projected, or had the stress of losing my job on the heels of the divorce finally pushed me over the edge into craziness.
No imagination.
I thought I heard again. The man winked at me and stepped back, waving us on before turning his attention to the next car. I shivered again. It could be something else. There were other supernaturals besides elementals.
Ooh, what is he? What is he?
Yeah, what is he?
That's what you'll find out when you read on.
Okay. Real quick question. Does she meet Carl at the thing, or can we not know that?
No, she meets Carl.
Uh-oh. Is there trouble afoot?
There's trouble afoot.
Oh, the best kind of fantasy is when trouble is afoot. Well, hey, thank you so much, Joyce. That was an awesome read. And so where can people find your books as well? Do you have a website, stuff like that? Where can people find you?
Well, my books are on Amazon, and then there's a books to read link. But I'm on Amazon. I'm on Apple, Kobo, Nook. I've got a website, and then I've got a Facebook author page. If you look at Joyce, it's author Joyce RW on Facebook. We'll bring it up. I just created it, so you'll just see it there. And then you can find, like I said, you can find me on Amazon. Basically, if you plug Joyce Reynolds-Ward into your search engine, I'm going to come up.
Awesome.
I'm the only one.
And Joyce Reynolds-Ward, her book is Clone Stronghold. That's clones with a K. And just for the closing, I want to say her very first thing of her blurb is, "In a world of supernatural beings, not knowing what you are is dangerous." So, guys, that was the theme today. Awesome. Well, hey, Joyce, thank you so much for being on the air with us.
Well, thank you guys. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, that is it for this night's Fantasy Fiends podcast. We hope you had a great time. Please remember to like and subscribe once we hit 300 subscribers. Andy will
do the podcast with half my beard shaved.
I might do it as well because I'm crazy.
We just gotta make sure that we shave the right sides of the beard.
I'll do my groin.
That's what you do in the privacy of your own home, Stevie.
Well, I might have already done it. Anyway, well, thank you guys so much for watching this Fantasy Fiends podcast. Remember, please, to like and subscribe. We are also on Spotify. That's another announcement. I've forgotten. I'll actually bring that up the next time. We are on Spotify. So thanks again, guys. We hope you have an amazing night.
Bye.
Bye.